Welcome back. So the Lesotho National Development Corporation, one of the attendees here at the 15th US-Africa Business Summit that did kick off yesterday, and conversations around fostering and deepening trade ties will be taking place for the bulk of the week. The National Development Corporation of Lesotho is a state-owned entity, and one of its mandates is to implement the country's industrial policies. It is also tasked with attracting investments into the country of around 2.1, 2.3 million people, and a country that is, of course, landlocked, engulfed mostly by South Africa. I do have the interim chief executive officer of the LNDC right now, Modise Ramadili, with me. Modise, thanks so much for your time. So we were speaking off air, and you were telling me that this is the first time attending the conference and the summit. What do you make of it so far?
Thank you very much, Fifi, for giving me the opportunity, and good day to your viewers. So far, I've seen very big opportunities for African countries in terms of collaboration with the US. We are talking serious matters here of development. The first one being the renewal of the Africa Growth Opportunity Act for access to market for African countries to the US. If I could be more specific on my country, Lesotho, as you know, in Africa we've been very strong on textiles and garments. But right now, it's the opportunity for us to increase our basket of what we can export to the US. And we have a very good strategy in country whereby we're looking at multiple sectors to grow and stimulate our economy. If I could mention them, the first one is agriculture. In agriculture, we see Lesotho as being an investment destination of choice for the US, and not only the US, even the rest of Africa and the world as well, because of the climate that we have. As you know, we have very clean water, and because we are known as the kingdom in the sky, we have very clean air. We don't have waterborne diseases and airborne diseases. That makes us very good for agriculture in terms of the plants that we can grow.
Sure.
And as you know, the world now is going organic. There are huge opportunities in country for anything organic coming from Lesotho and to the rest of the world. But we're not just looking at agriculture, we're also looking at issues such as tourism. We have a very beautiful country. Many say that we are the Switzerland of Africa. And I say Switzerland is the Lesotho of Europe, because we have a beautiful mountainous country with beautiful scenery. If you can go there now, the mountains are covered with snow, and a lot of tourists are attracted to the country. It's just that we are not so much known, and as the Lesotho National Development Corporation, we have embarked on a project for nation branding, for Lesotho to be known by the world, and the world to come and visit this beautiful mountain kingdom.
Sure. So you are essentially, and you have essentially sold the kingdom right now, not only from a tourism point of view, but also in terms of the business opportunities that you see. I imagine that these are the conversations that you'll be having with the very many investors that are here at this platform. Perhaps maybe just to unpack the investment case a little bit further, and exactly what it is that you're looking for as Lesotho, and what are you giving investors in return for their capital?
As a country, particularly, let me just talk about the Lesotho National Development Corporation, because we are the investment and trade arm of the government of Lesotho. One of the key things that we have under our value proposition to invest in Lesotho, we give all investors an opportunity to get serviced land for their businesses in country, but also should investors need factory shells that are fully serviced, we also provide such. And in terms of registration in country for a business to have a soft landing, we have a dedicated aftercare department that assists with all those modalities in order to ensure that companies can easily extend their footprint. From an incentive package point of view, even on tax, when you speak manufacturing, we have very favorable tax rates if you compare us to the rest of the other African markets. But also, maybe let me also talk about the issue of AGOA in general. When in textiles and garments, which is our strong point, we have a duty-free and quota-free access in terms of importation of raw materials that are ultimately produced in Lesotho and exported to the American market. But however, I'm saying to American companies, we don't just see Lesotho as a country whereby you can seed for sourcing purposes. But Lesotho gives you access to the rest of Africa and the rest of the world.
Sure.
Why I'm saying this, we might have a population, which you mentioned, of 2.1 to 2.3 million people. And you can say we're a small market. But because of the bilateral agreements that the country has signed, to put an example, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, it gives you access to Africa, which has a population of 1.4 billion people. By virtue of Lesotho being in the SADC community, already it gives you access to 390 people. By virtue of us being landlocked by South Africa, we have an access already of 60 million people in South Africa. So there's a huge market for companies to extend their footprint and immediately get access to all these markets that I'm talking about externally from Lesotho.
Sure. We have to wrap up, but you also are an interesting destination in terms of an emerging market right now, being that of cannabis. And we have seen quite a number of governments all over the world just relaxing how they regulate cannabis and opening it up more for the free use of their citizenry, mainly for health purposes, of course. Is cannabis part of AGOA right now, and is this perhaps an area that you'd like to negotiate in those new terms when that the current deal wraps up in 2025?
You're raising a very important point, Fifi. As I've said, we've been strong in textiles and garments, and we need to increase our basket of goods that we export to the U.S. market. So cannabis is certainly on top of the agenda. Lesotho has been first to market in Africa, and we have been very proactive in terms of having a solid legislative framework, which is an enabler for companies to open in country and be able to export. And I'm very glad to say, one of the companies right now is way ahead, even in terms of international standards, because they are GMP certified, which means they have access to international markets because they comply